We are officially locking in, and training camp is right around the corner. Every single spot on this 91-man roster is about to be pushed to the absolute limit, and we are breaking down who is safe, who is fighting for their lives, and who is getting left out in the cold. If you want the absolute best and deepest breakdown of the roster this season, hit that subscribe button right now, smash the like, and share this video with everyone you know. Let's be honest, can you even imagine the absolute chaos if management decided to shock the world and shake up the core foundation of this team before Week 1? That is exactly the kind of high-stakes pressure we are dealing with as we dive headfirst into the absolute locks of this roster. We have 91 guys right now because our absolute weapon of a punter from Australia doesn't even count against the off-season limit, giving us one extra spot to analyze. Let's start with the absolute certainties, the guys who could sleep through camp and still have a locker in September. At quarterback, it is a done deal with our elite new franchise savior and a rock-solid backup ready to roll. The backfield is locked down with an explosive primary option and a bruising secondary piece who are absolutely not going anywhere. Moving out wide, the depth is staggering, featuring a sensational top-tier rookie, an absolute speed demon, and a couple of elite playmakers who are safe no matter what. The tight end room is completely set at the top with a dominant trio, meaning the only real question is if management decides to carry a fourth body into the season. Up front on the offensive line, the big fellas are completely secure. The franchise right tackle, a massive interior anchor, a high-priced guard, and a veteran center are locked in. Even if that veteran center gets floated in wild trade rumors, he is either starting here or bringing back a massive haul, because he is way too valuable to ever face the chopping block. On the defensive side of the ball, the trenches are absolutely loaded. A ferocious primary edge rusher and a highly touted rookie draft pick are locked in to hunt opposing quarterbacks. Joining them is a massive defensive tackle secured by a heavy contract, a breakout second-year defensive lineman, and a veteran leader up front alongside a projected sophomore breakout star. The linebacker core is just as secure with a high-priced veteran leader and a flying playmaker anchoring the middle. Good luck finding a way to cut either of them based on those massive contracts. The secondary is an absolute no-fly zone, led by a premier lockdown cornerback, a dynamic slot defender, an incredibly physical boundary corner, and a hard-hitting rookie who is locked in. A couple of reliable depth pieces and priority young defensive backs are completely safe too. Finally, the special teams unit is set in stone with an incredibly accurate veteran kicker, and our rookie punting sensation who literally has zero competition in camp. Which borderline player fighting for their roster life are you absolutely pulling for the most this summer? Drop your thoughts, names, and bold predictions in the comments section down below right now for our question of the day. Moving right along to the safe category, these are the guys who are essentially locks but just lack the massive financial guarantees or draft pedigree to be 100% untouchable. Our veteran third-string quarterback is as close to a lock as humanly possible, but given his age, weird things can happen in camp. A couple of reliable backup offensive linemen and a steady interior defensive tackle fit right here, alongside a physical young defensive lineman who would have to put up an absolute disaster of a camp to lose his spot. We also have a special teams ace linebacker and a pair of hard-hitting defenders who are highly likely to stick around simply because teams rarely move on from top 5-round draft capital. In the secondary, a couple of defensive backs and a veteran safety who serves as a special teams core leader are firmly on the right side of the roster bubble. Now, let's talk about the absolute war zone that is the roster bubble. This is where camp battles turn into absolute cinematic drama. In the backfield, a heavy-hitting second-year running back is fighting to hold off a couple of hungry veterans who have deep coaching connections and massive explosive potential. At wide receiver, a veteran speedster could easily make the team if management decides to keep 6 targets. But if they trim the fat down to 5, he is the tragic odd man out. A versatile fullback tight end hybrid is pushing hard alongside a practice squad standout from last year who is trying to force the team to carry a 4th tight end. The offensive line bubble is pure chaos, featuring a former starting tackle with an insanely wide range of outcomes, meaning he could realistically start at left tackle or get cut entirely. He is battling alongside a couple of young interior blockers who might be fighting for a single open roster spot. On the defensive line, a pair of veteran journeymen are locked in a direct head-to-head battle where one likely stays and the other gets packed up. The linebacker depth is just as tight, with a former mid-round pick needing to prove his worth on special teams against an experienced veteran newcomer. Even the special teams unit features an absolute civil war at long snapper, where an experienced second-year specialist is trying to hold off a hungry incoming rookie. Before we look at the absolute long shots who need a miracle to make this team, we have to talk about the physically unable to perform list. A couple of massive pieces are almost guaranteed to start the year sidelined. A dominant young offensive tackle who anchored the line last year is still recovering, and a hard-hitting young linebacker is working his way back from a devastating Achilles injury suffered late last winter. If he beats the timeline, he enters a massive bottleneck in the linebacker room, but expect both of these guys to be stashed away early on. Finally, let's look at the absolute long shots, the guys who are fighting for a prayer, a practice squad spot, or a dream. A young developmental quarterback is trapped behind established veterans, while an undrafted free agent running back is starting from the absolute bottom of the depth chart. We have a massive group of undrafted wide receivers and a veteran tight end who are completely facing an uphill battle against younger, cheaper talent. On the offensive line, a former third-round pick with major health concerns is running out of time, while a few developmental blockers are looking like practice squad priorities at best. The defensive line depth features multiple athletic projects who possess insane physical testing scores but zero regular season production. The linebacker room is overflowing with spring league standouts and undrafted rookies who simply got here too late to make a realistic push. The secondary is just as crowded, with a handful of defensive backs who flashed briefly on the practice squad last year but are completely buried under an avalanche of elite talent at the top of the depth chart. This roster has undergone an absolute massive transformation from top to bottom, and the depth is officially terrifying for anyone trying to coast through camp. How do you officially grade this entire 91-man roster heading into training camp? Go ahead and drop an A, B, C, D, or F right now in the comments. Thank you all so much for riding with us. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications so you never miss a single update, and as always, let's get ready to dominate this season.